So let's talk a little bit about the Ukraine, and I just want to say a few things about the Ukraine right up top. I am upset not only at the Eastern European Union, I am upset at the Ukraine, the Russians, the United States, everybody for making me have to find out shit about the Ukraine. Because I don't know anything about it, and I don't want to know anything about it, and I couldn't care less about CriMeA and the Black Sea and Kiev and all. Hey, by the way, that's where Chernobyl is. It's inside.
That's where all you need to know is chicken Kiev, which is delicious.
It's
like freshen up gum of chicken. It's like a delicious, bursty, buttery surprise inside the chicken breast.
Yeah.
And then there was also tens of thousands dead at Chernobyl.
Chicken Kiev is the freshen up of chicken dishes. The freshen up gum. It hasn't.
Oh, that's what. I thought that was a spice or something.
No, the freshen up.
I thought it was like a foreign spice.
No, that's the little burst of cum that you get when you bite into freshen up gum.
Yeah.
Oh, are they the new sponsor, I assume?
Yes, the freshen up's our new sponsor. Are they still around?
I don't know.
No.
Wait, that's the one you bite into it and it would like splash into
it would squirt in your mouth.
Squirt.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that?
Yeah.
I guess people didn't like that sensation.
I know some people that like that sensation.
You would think there'd be enough people to keep that brand going.
Yeah. I'm going to bring that back to West Hollywood.
So I just hate everybody for making me learn about the Ukraine, which I have now learned about the Ukraine, and I've even gone so far as to read the Wikipedia page.
Ooh,
so
Jesus.
I know a lot more about the Ukraine than I ever thought I would know. So here is Secretary of State John Kerry. He weighed in on the Ukraine, and by the way, John Kerry, Secretary of State.
Excuse me.
Bless
sorry.
you. John Kerry, Secretary of State. Exactly how the F did that happen, right? After Susan Rice's nomination got scuttled, everyone just assumed Kerry was next on the list to be Secretary of State. And I say, why? The guy who couldn't rally enough Democrats to beat George W. Bush, for Christ's sake. That guy? You do know there was literally anybody else to pick from, but they picked John Kerry. I guess it's some kind of a deal in the Democratic Party where you get to be in the cabinet if you kill a water buffalo or something. I don't know exactly what he did, but here. Want to know why John Kerry isn't president? Do you want to know why he's not president? I'm going to say it's his total lack of circumspection and irony. And here is my evidence. Play the clip.
Well, it's an incredible act of aggression. It is really a stunning, willful choice by President Putin to invade another country. You just don't, in the 21st century, behave in 19th century fashion by invading another country on completely trumped up pretext.
Okay, so I put a little sound effect in there. And,
that was you?
John Kerry went on to say, the next on Kerry's list of things to say is he's going to tell Australia how wrong it is to put your native Aboriginal people on reservations. And then he's off to China where he's going to tell them the conditions for construction of their railroad are very dangerous to their Chinamen. Do you get the irony there? I'm doing a little, we all get what I'm doing.
You're not quite being fair because I believe John Kerry was for the Russian troops going into the Ukraine before he was against
them. Yes, yes.
What is he talking about? You just don't do it. What is he saying? Well, first off, we do it. We do do it when we want to.
And we did it in the 21st century.
We've done it plenty of times. But also, we just don't do it. Well, if Putin did it, then he did it. You know what I mean? You're not saying, that's not saying anything. You're really just not saying anything. And then, Obama followed up the same day with his thing about, well, I guess Putin was sitting around with his lawyers and didn't come up with the same, decisions that we came up with ours about invading a country. I don't think Putin's sitting there with lawyers. I don't think he has Crane, Poole, and Schmidt sitting in there going, guys, can we do this? Is this legal? They're doing what they want to do, and they know we won't do anything. I'm not saying we should do anything. I have no idea what we should do. But we're not even playing on the same field with these guys.
Yeah, I don't understand why we need to do anything. I don't get it.
I'm not saying we should. But
I don't understand why people say, hey, took over CriMeA. How am I going to sleep? I don't understand. The Russians are now controlling CriMeA, which they kind of controlled anyway
because
they
had 60% Russian.
Which is 60% Russian, and they already had the fleet All right, their naval fleet was already stationed in
Yeah, they have
Crimea.
like a lease until
Yeah,
the
they have a lease.
23rd century.
So it's I don't understand what people want us to do. And let me just say this about what John Kerry said. As always, I'd like to know, he could have said something else. He could have said anything else. Like there's a million things you can say about Crimea and Ukraine without saying what he said. But he chose those certain words in that certain sequence. I mean, if you have to be really at the top of your incompetence game to choose those words, right?
You do, but look, this is international diplomacy, and it matters what you say, and you have to be careful. And of course, yeah,
there literally was a rim shot at the end of what he said, Ben. I don't know if you heard that.
And he didn't even react to it.
He didn't even react. He was just like, "Oh boy, they got me in the control room. These guys are onto my bullshit." Cheesh.
They didn't do this shit. Hillary never got a rim shot.
I mean, he said, it's not like we're saying, yes, you don't do this in the 21st century. What he should have said was, we don't do this in the 20-aughts, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because we did it in 2002. We invaded Iraq, but we've learned a lot in the 11 years since.
Right.
I think that's what he meant to say.
And you know what's funny? We've admitted our trumped-up pretext. We have fully admitted it as the United States that we had a trumped-up pretext. So him saying that you shouldn't do it is complete nonsense. But also, we got to remember, this is the guy that was comparing Assad to Hitler 6 months ago, and
yes.
We really haven't done anything there.
Apparently, we let Hitler just stay in power.
Right, Hitler's killing more than he
Yes.
was even back then. Maybe 5% of the chemical weapons got out. So, he just says things. That's the problem. You could just put these straw men up there to say things.
But I don't think it matters.
Guy's eating too much ketchup.
It just matters that he says something. Like you can't. Obviously, I don't think whether we think the Crimea, the Crimean Peninsula, the Crimea is important. Like you can't obviously just send troops in and not have the rest of the world. We have rules, right? We break the rules when we see fit.
When it serves our purposes.
When it serves our
rules.
purpose. At the time, if you take George Bush and Dick Cheney at their word, they thought that because of that we'd been hit, that was a legitimate threat. I don't really think that. And these guys were ultimately against that. Not super strongly against it, just like kind of against it. And then, so I think he's being very consistent because we were kind of against the Iraq War, and now we're kind of against him going into the Ukraine. So this is what we do. But you can't just let you. And Putin is a bold man. Like I think he's crazy. I think something's wrong with him.
Well, he is
That's
a
what they're saying.
dictator.
Right, he's a dictator.
And he likes to take his shirt off and look at bears.
Yeah, so he's a crazy person. Like something's not firing right in there because he literally, like they were until a couple days ago, at least maybe they still are. They're denying those are Russian troops.
Yes.
He's like, oh, they don't have an
Yes.
insignia. I don't know who they're from. I don't know. They could be anybody.
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, that's
I mean,
hilarious.
that's insane.
You
That's-
could go to a store and get that uniform. You could buy it at the cheap trick store.
Right, that's because to make your Hitler comparison, that's what Hitler did to start World War II. He's like, we're going to send in a bunch of Germans and we're going to dress them up in Polish uniforms, and we're going to pretend that they took over this radio station, and that's going to give us a pretext to roll into a country that defends itself with horses.
It sounds like a Mel Brooks movie.
Right, totally.
Basically.
And that was 1939, and everybody was like, dude, those were your guys. Like we know it. They were your guys.
And Hillary Clinton pointed that out the other day, and she caught hell for it, by the way. She was comparing what Putin did to what Hitler did. And did you see that?
But then she said it's not a comparison. She did it.
And then she compares them, and she goes, but I'm not comparing them. But you just compared them for 2 paragraphs. She said that. She said the same thing. This is exactly what you just said.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah,
well,
she
good.
said she went, look at you knowing history, Ben, son of a gun. But you didn't know that Hitler, she said that because you have a kid.
That's right. I
Okay.
only know things that were taught to me when I was 19.
So I don't know what else to say about the Ukraine except that I don't want to care. I don't know why we care so much about it. It must be important. Right? Can you figure out why we care?
We care because we get to focus on Russia the way we focused on them when they were the Soviet Union, and that's why Rudy Giuliani loves it. The people we're about to hear from. That's why Bill Kristol loves it, because it's like, look, this is the kind of thing. This is Brezhnev. This is Khrushchev. This is Chernenko and Dropov. Nobody's going to talk about those guys today. I just thought I'd throw them out
nobody.
there.
How about Popovich?
That's what
He's got a great offensive system down in San Antonio.
He's like, it's like a, for the right, it's like oh great, an enemy we can identify with and act like we're incredibly weak compared to, because we're already getting stuff like, hey, you don't say what you want about Putin. He's a leader. He made a decision at midnight to roll in at 12:08.
Yeah.
He took it back.
Yeah.
And then, right, which we'll get to. But also the weird thing about the CriMeA, right? Is that how we say it?
Yes, CriMeA.
I mean, right, but it's
CriMeA
not-
River.
Right. Is that Khrushchev just gave it to the Ukraine.
Yes.
When the Ukraine was still part of the Iron Curtain.
Yes.
But he was like, here, I guess he was Ukrainian, Khrushchev.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah, and
So he gave them their independence?
He sort of didn't give them their independence. He gave that area, he gave the CriMeA to the Ukraine, but it didn't really matter then because who gives a shit?
They're all
We're
behind
the
the
Soviet
Iron
Union,
Curtain.
we get to do
Yeah.
whatever we want.
Yeah, but isn't that why it's all bullshit?
Right,
Like all the
yeah.
drawn lines and who gave this to who and the UN demarcated this, that. It really is Game of Thrones. Like,
Wait
at the end
a
of the
second,
day-
guys. I mean, this is not lightweight stuff.
Oh,
This
okay.
is I'm sorry, but the CriMeA is actually strategically incredibly important. Sits on the Black Sea. It's the major naval port for that area. It's very important. And the situation with Ukraine is that Ukraine makes all of the food for that region. That is incredibly strategically important. And one of the things that he's doing is he's making sure that if Ukraine decides to join the European Union, that at the very least he'll still have this strategic port.
That's right. No,
I mean, these are not lightweight issues. This is really important. And the thing is that it is a very aggressive move that has to do with Lebensraum. It has to do with creating a border of security back around the former Soviet Union. So this is not, you should care.
Okay,
this is shit you should
Right,
care.
you shouldn't care about CriMeA necessarily, like that's,
Okay.
but you should care, like we're global politics, it matters an enormous deal, and as soon as they threw out the previous guy, what was his name?
Yanukovych.
Yanukovych.
Yeah, as soon as Yanukovych gets tossed in the Ukraine, and it appears that the tilt is going to go to the West, and that they're going to align with the European Union. I mean, in a sense, that was leadership. Then at that point, it took him like 24 hours, like, nope, I don't want to start a war with the Ukraine, right? But maybe I can just secure this, and I can secure our naval base, and I'll secure our access to food in that area. And the way that I can make my claim to it is by saying, legitimately, most of the people there are Russian anyway, and we gave it away rather arbitrarily in 1954.
Jimmy,
So, yes,
don't you
Steph.
in a way kind of miss the Cold War?
Do I?
Yeah, don't you? Like,
I do. You know what? It's like, well, the problem is since we haven't had the Russians as our major Cold War enemy, it seems like the United States didn't really know what to do with all its anger and
Yes.
hatred, and we turned it on ourselves, right? So the right wing and the left wing and the libertarians and the Ron Paul crazies and the racists and we're shooting at ourselves over here in America. And I just say, can't we just all go back to the old days where we all liked each other and just hated those goddamn Russians? Those were the old.
But that's why Rocky IV was such a good movie.
Yes.
And that's why John Kerry keeps bringing it up, because you know who the good guy is and you know who the bad guy is, and it's very obvious. And the bad guy's doing steroids, and steroids are very bad too. So now that we don't have that anymore, people don't know who they are because they don't know who to hate.
I never stopped hating the Russians, Dave.
Even after
Even after
he beat Drago in the speech, the whole speech was about
The whole
forgiveness
thing,
and acceptance.
even after Boris Yeltsin was drinking, I didn't.
He
Still,
was fun. No,
he
no,
was fun and a partier. I still didn't like the
No, I'm with
Rushdiki.
you. I think that they're I think that that's a country of this is going to be trouble.
Uh-oh.
That's a country of hateful racists. That's pretty much like we ran that picture in TYT Sports when they got eliminated they lost to Finland in the quarterfinals. There were all these photos of like Russian hockey fans, and they were like at work, like people would watch it at work. And I just think they just decided it wasn't so much the hockey loss; it was the realization that they were going to live in Russia for the rest of their life. I don't know. So and they like this thug, and those hideous anti-gay laws worked, because people were like, yeah, because they want somebody to hate too.
Yes. Oh, you're right. Look at them. They turn on themselves too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Look, I don't know. And obviously, Russia's got filled with really good, decent people. But I mean, they got away with passing that law. He's been in power forever. They got away with putting Pussy Riot in prison without the significant outcry.
No, but we still, and then it's not, Guantanamo Bay, Edward Snowden, Daniel Manning. I
Bradley.
mean, you could say the same things about
Chelsea.
America. And
Yeah, but you can't, I got it. You can say bad things about America. I don't think they're the same things. Like,
No.
I got it. We're both big, powerful bullies. That's what we are.
Look, that's why we have a democracy, is because this sort of thing is typical of power. It's endemic to power.
Right.
That if you have a powerful leader like Putin, he is going to hold on to power whatever way possible. And what history in the 20th century has shown us over and over again is there are two ways to do that: create enemies within and create enemies without. And that is exactly what he's done. He has created dissidents. He has demonized the gays, and then he has invaded. He has created an enemy without. And democracy makes that virtually impossible to do. A true democracy, because honestly, if you look at a lot of people on the right, they would happily demonize people internally, and they would happily demonize people externally. And our Congress, as fucked up as they are, they fight each other on that. And that keeps that at bay. But the moment you have centralized power the way Putin has, all bets are off. That's the way things are going to head, no matter what.
No, I get that. I get why Russia wanted to take over Crimea. I get that all you have to do is look at a map and you see the strategic position of Crimea in the Black Sea.
But it also centralizes his power. He can say, I am a military power.
Okay.
It has to do with, he's coming up on really the end of his potential tenure. And that is why you saw...
So he wants a legacy, you think?
No. He's centralizing his power to make a very, very big power move to keep himself in there as a legacy person. But that's why you saw the gay laws coming in when they did, and that's why you saw this move into Crimea, is that they have to do with him staying where he is. And what he's doing is he's appeasing the right. He's appeasing the hillbillies in his own country.
Yes. Okay. Well, now we know why we should care about Crimea.
And by the way, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the piece that Henry Kissinger wrote today,
Yeah.
very thoughtful.
Really?
Very thoughtful. Like, hey, we're
I
looking
wonder
at
who
this,
wrote it for him.
We're looking at this all wrong. Like, Ukraine is always has been a bridge. It will have to continue to be a bridge. It can't go all to the west. Like, it's too much for Russia to give up. It can't. So we're going to have to find some solution where it's this literal bridge between east and west,
really?
which is probably what it ought to be.
Okay. Again, I'm
Which, by
learning
the
a
way,
lot.
this is thousands of years of stuff.
Yes.
This has always been the problem with Russia. Russia has always had a rough relationship with Europe because they're half Asian and they're half European. There are big linguistic and cultural gaps, but there are also economic and geographical issues that are hundreds and hundreds of years old.
So we're learning about the Ukraine, and I got to be honest, I still resent it. I resent having to learn all this stuff, but it is interesting. Okay, and we'll be back with some jokes.